Anime Boston is still going strong, and this year they were also celebrating 20 years since the convention first began back in 2003. Ever since I first attended Anime Boston while I was in college, it's been the funnest event I look forward to every year. It's got a nice mix of entertaining and educational panels and great cosplays with a friendly community and amazing fan art for sale. All of course focused on anime and Japanese culture. So if you've never gone before and you're in the New England area, I would highly recommend checking it out. Although I haven't actually gone to any other anime conventions myself yet, but this year I did hear a lot of comparisons to SakuraCon over in Seattle, and that it had quite a few problems apparently. Something about an AI art panel and shitty treatment towards artists and press. I don't know all the details, but I was told Anime Boston was apparently the place to be this year. And honestly, it really did feel like there was so much more energy this time compared to last year, which makes sense because now we're not dealing as much with pandemic headaches. They're still kind of there, but not as much as last time. This year, Anime Boston didn't mandate masks, but they required proof of initial vaccination. There were a lot of people, of course, between 25 to 30k, I'd imagine, but luckily there wasn't an outbreak from the event, not that I've heard of at least, and me and my brother didn't catch anything, so that's good. But now let's get into Anime Boston 2023. This year I went with my little brother Andrew again, but we decided to stay at a hotel for the first time. So we booked a room at the Sheraton Hotel, since it's directly a part of the con, picked up our badges the day before on Thursday, so the only thing we had to do on Friday was check in. In hindsight though, I probably should have reserved the room for Thursday as well, so we didn't have to deal with going into and out of Boston just to grab our badges. But we got to meet up with my friends Dan and Kennedy and eat at the nearby Cheesecake Factory, so that was cool at least. Unfortunately, our Friday morning hotel check-in took longer than expected because they screwed up with our room assignment. Our card didn't work at first, so they brought security to help. Then his card also didn't work, and then another security guy came and thought that we had another friend already in the room. And then it turned out they just double booked the room, and there was already a couple inside trying to sleep, so sorry to them. But I was thinking to myself immediately like, oh no, we're about to get screwed, aren't we? They're gonna tell us there's no rooms available even though I reserved ours months in advance. Luckily they still had a room, but it was just an annoying way to start the day. Apologies again to that couple for interrupting your morning sleep there. Wasn't our fault. Con time can get crazy for the Sheraton, I guess. Later on that night there was also a pipe burst or something at the Sheraton near where people pick up their badges usually. Luckily they weren't doing badges at the time, so there weren't as many people around, but it was just weird seeing massive water damage there and then how quickly they were able to clean it up. But anyways, that's all for the hotel bullshit. Let's get right into the con itself. The first panel we went to was Anime Sites from Yesteryear. This was hosted by Samantha from Anime Herald, who I met last year when they were giving out Sakura Wars DVDs, and my friend Kennedy, who you probably know on YouTube as Red Bard. The video for this panel is up on Kennedy's channel now, so you can watch the full thing there if you want. They highlighted how the cool thing about online fandom is that it's sort of traceable, so it makes it a lot easier to pick out parts of its history and highlight some of the more notable aspects of it. So when they talk about anime fandom's history online, they could go all the way back before the World Wide Web was even invented. According to them, it all started in the late 1987 when a college student started a Usenet group about anime. When their historical timeline went into the 90s, they gave out a few AOL discs to the crowd. I got 1,000 free hours. My brother only got 500. Sucks to be him. So they focused on a few notable websites. Anime Turnpike was a giant directory of anime website links. Anime on DVD was an anime news site that started a few months before Anime News Network. Fanfiction.net was where all fandoms appeared. Cosplay.com dealt with anything cosplay related, and LiveJournal brought easy access to user blogs, which a number of anime cons, fan clubs, and celebrities would use as well. Anime Boston even had one at some point too. AnimeMusicVideos.org was the place for AMVs, as the name implies, at least until they got a cease and desist order and had to remove around 2,000 AMVs, mostly ones that used music by Evanescence apparently. And of course they had to bring up Gaia Online, the anime-themed social network from 2003, which let you have anime avatars you could customize with outfits and other items, which eventually killed its own virtual economy through hyperinflation, but you can hear more about all that in Kennedy's video about Gaia Online. It was a pretty informative tour on anime online fandoms, so I thought it was pretty cool. Speaking of history, the next panel we went to was Exploring Historiosity in Anime and Manga, which was also hosted by Kennedy. This one explored historical authenticity in animes, so I personally found it really cool because of my similar interest in scientific accuracy in anime. But they had to start with a lot of ground rules so we all understood what's considered to be historical anime. It needs to either focus on specific historical figures, events, eras, or concepts, and it needs to be an intentional presentation of this history. For example, an anime like Shiki was disqualified because its 90s setting was really just the result of the light novels actually being written in the 90s. It wasn't really intended to be some kind of historical setting that was a part of the work, so it didn't really count. Some categories Kennedy covered included every iteration of Oda Nobunaga Nobunaga in anime? There's a lot. One of them is a dog. It's adorable. How insanely attentive to detail the Vinland Saga author is, and that Requiem of the Rose King series where they all want to fuck King Richard III or something like that. It was a hilarious panel, and that also introduced the perspective of how anime plays with historical concepts. Some of them do really well and are accurate. Others make them interesting stories but are highly inaccurate. And if you're interested in historiosity in anime, the ultimate recommendation was just to get into Vinland Saga. It's just so good and it's so well done. That panel should also be up on Kennedy's YouTube channel soon as well, I believe. That's what I think they said, and I know that they recorded it, so maybe it'll be on there by the time this video is done. I don't know. After that, we checked out the live drawing session with Anime Boston's main Japanese guest this year, manga author Shio Yoshijima. She had a rough sketch of something ready, and we spent the time watching her paint while asking her questions, and meanwhile, her two interpreters helped guide the conversation. The artist normally draws different types of monster girls, and the one she did at that time turned out to be a mermaid. I'm not familiar with the painting process when it comes to physical art, but I remember she started with the main body pink color, then some bows and the hair, the eyes, and finally the outlines. A lot of the questions were related to her personal art process, and some of it went over my head, but it was still interesting to learn about some of those concepts for the first time. And they also talked about how each time they work on a character, they try to imagine some kind of new lore about them, so the process of creating them becomes more and more personal every time they do it. Someone asked how she remembers where to put the details after she paints over the sketch, and her answer was just that she usually just either just guesses or goes on instinct. You know, it's hard to see the lines after you've painted over them, of course. So I guess it's just something you get better at over time with experience, which makes sense. It's not really much else you can do there. There are a few times where we can notice that she was painting wet on wet, which somebody asked about, and she confirmed it was intentional in order to get a certain effect out of it. Guess that makes sense, but again, I only really have experience with digital art stuff from my drawing tablet and stuff that I do. So overall, it was nice to see this professional artist's whole process from start to finish in about an hour while learning from them. Kind of wanted to buy one of their cute Monster Girl art books that they were talking about while I was there, but I never really stumbled on their booth wherever that was, so I didn't really get to do that. Then I went to the Legacy of Leiji Matsumoto panel, and for context, I don't think I've seen anything by Leiji Matsumoto. Probably my main exposure to their work is seeing a few references in the Blue Blazes live action show, which is fucking amazing. You guys should check that out. But I do know Galaxy Express 39, Captain Harlock, and Space Battleship Yamato exist, but I mostly just know them by name. Should be good enough to listen in on a panel about the guy who created them, right? So the panel was hosted by Zach Davison, Helen McCarthy, Neil Nadelman, and Darius Washington. Specifically relevant for this panel, Zach was the official English translator for almost all of Leiji's manga and came up with a Leiji Matsumoto Bible of sorts that matches all the terminologies across his works, and Helen McCarthy is a British author of anime reference books, one of which is Leiji Matsumoto Essays on the Manga and Anime Legend, which is apparently available on Amazon right now, so you can check that out if you're interested. So the panelists opened up by introducing themselves and their experiences with Star Blazers, one of Leiji Matsumoto's works that I'm told became the sort of gateway drug for TV anime here in America. Even my Uncle Mike seems to know about it, and he doesn't know shit about anime, so there's that. And from there, it transitioned to talk about Leiji's history, the impact of his works, how cool Captain Harlock always looks, Leiji Matsumoto's love of strong Kyushu women resulting in awesome female characters, his casual friendship with Tezuka, and how he could build space opera universes based solely on being cool regardless of making sense. Now, technically, I have seen that Daft Punk anime that Leiji supposedly worked on, but even during the panel, they said he was barely a part of it aside from his name being in the credits. Anyone referring to Leiji Matsumoto as the Daft Punk guy gets a very, very angry lecture from Zach Davison, but he's still sort of fine with the anime as being a gateway for new people to find his works. So all that was pretty informative, especially considering I didn't know anything about Leiji before going to the panel, so that was pretty cool. But the next panel we went to was Tailor Made for Me, Time Travel in Anime, hosted by an engineer, college physics teacher, and longtime anime nerd named Mitch Stern. The guy was hilarious and informative, making the panel an incredibly entertaining mix for a sci-fi anime-obsessed dude like me. It starts with talking about broad time travel theories and related concepts such as paradoxes and the different problems time travel itself can cause. And then he dives into different attempts in media of applying these concepts, like Star Trek, Back to the Future, Terminator, and Groundhog Day. Some of the popular stuff outside of anime everybody knows. But the bulk of the anime side of things was spent going over different types of time travel anime, their general premise in relation to its time travel, and how it affects the story overall, and also some of the problems they might have with its time travel logic. It started with Inuyasha and the time traveling well, then you get the girl leapt through time and how she casually uses her leaps to make her life easier. One anime that I didn't expect to show up was Higurashi, When They Cry, but I guess that makes sense since it does deal with time loops. Then of course you get stuff like ReZero with its respawn mechanic, and other time travel series brought up were like Little Busters, Madoka Magica, Your Name, Seven Seas, Revisions, Iroduku, and Erased, I think. But of course he saved Steins Gate for last because it is the quintessential time travel anime that's both very scientifically accurate and has a great narrative. According to him, it doesn't use time travel, it is time travel. And I completely agree. So that panel was incredibly amazing, and I talked to him a little bit after about it and got his contact info as well, so I may reach out to him in the future for anime science videos, so that'd be cool to do. So this was the first year I actually attended the big AMV contest reveals in the auditorium, not just the replays they have in some of the smaller rooms afterwards. This year I'd also actually entered the contest myself for the first time with my AMV about Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop and the Porter Robinson song Something Comforting. Sadly, I didn't make the finals, but it was still a fun thing to try, and that's up here on the channel, so if you want to check that out, you can go see it and let me know what you think about it. But after seeing all the other finalists, I can see how tough it was to get nominated for the finals. There was a parody of the AMC Theaters trailer, a mix of Cyberpunk with The Matrix Resurrections, and this awesome looking toilet-bound Hanako-kun manga video. They were just incredible. Those are probably all up on YouTube, so I'll try to link a playlist in the description for you guys to check out if I can find one. And then the last thing we went to on Friday night was the Greg Ayres Raw and Uncensored panel, where he told us all some of the wildest stories he's had to deal with. The biggest of which was the time he went to a hotel where someone was murdered, and he asked some of the staff if he was in the room where it happened, what he called, quote, the fucked up room. And at first they said, no, of course, we would never give out that room. And then he became friends with somebody else there, and he was like, so tell me, am I really? He's like, what's your room number? Oh yeah, you're in it. You're in the fucked up room. So he went on about some other stories, but that was the main one I remembered. And honestly, it was all a great comedy routine, so it was better to hear it live anyway. So if you ever get a chance to hear Greg Ayres ramble, I'd highly recommend doing that because he's a funny dude. Saturday morning started with a panel by Shabes, aka Caribou-kun, and their presentation was on how Mamoru Hosoda directed TV anime. Before going to this panel, I was only really familiar with Hosoda's movies, some of which I love, like The Girl Left Through Time, but a lot of his movies basically all tell the same story to me. Like you got Belle, the Digimon movie, Summer Wars, they just all kind of feel very, very like similar tropes sprinkled in with them. It's a Hosoda movie, you can tell, but it's whatever. They're still great to watch anyway, so I don't really mind. So Shape's panel on how Hosoda directs TV anime was really an audience participation thing, where all of us collectively dissected different scenes from episodes of shows he directed. Like there was a clip from Gegege where everyone turns into Darumas, and we talk about how Hosoda uses storytelling just in shadows of frames. There were skits from, I think it was Chibi Maruko-chan or something, where they use repetition and context shifts to completely change how you feel about the scene. Specifically, in that example, it was this girl who would always go around blabbing about some rumors or whatever to everybody, and then eventually the whole town started to hate her, and then she would keep doing it, but now it stopped being funny. It stopped being like a funny little animated bit and started being sad because now she's alone. So you get a big shift with that, you know? It was all insightful and interactive and gives you some practice for things you normally wouldn't pay attention to and focus on the direction of some scenes maybe. So I definitely had a good time with it, and I can't wait to see if Shave does more panels in the future. After that, we went to Intro to Manga Collecting, which, as you can tell, I didn't exactly need, but I was curious about what it would be covering in general. And like the panelist warned me in the hall when he noticed my press badge on me, it was mostly a beginner course. He explained what manga is, each of their dynamics, and the different types of manga collectors there are. One thing I was looking forward to is some tips on storage specifically, because I have a lot of manga and not a lot of room to set up more bookshelves for them. I got two giant piles next to me here at my desk that you can't see, and he did talk a bit about that, but now I'm dumb and don't remember most of what he said specifically. That would be helpful for that. So I think it was something like different types of boxes and sizes and specific containers that you can get. So maybe I'll review my audio recordings of things and see if I can listen back to that. That'd be nice. The History of Kyoto Animation panel went through a timeline of their series and how they were received, like how they took over Full Metal Panic for season 2 and all the visual novel adaptations they did with Air, Fire, Clannad, and Kanon. But the big shift for the studio was the huge successes of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya and then Lucky Star's influential presence, which to me seemed to also influence their experimental marketing techniques later on, specifically their fake anime original trailers they made, which were then widely received, one of which eventually evolved into making the popular swimming anime free. And then of course they talked about their other big titles like Hibike Euphonium, Beyond the Boundary, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, and Violet Evergarden. But what they didn't want to dig into detail on was the unfortunate arson incident Kyoto Animation suffered in 2019, and I understand why you'd rather not get into that. It's still depressing to think about this day, but I'm glad to see the studio back up and still going strong today. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good little history timeline of Kyoto Animation. Didn't really seem like it dug too much into like some of the background stuff behind the studio itself. It was more just like looking at its history through the stuff that they did, and not so much focused on like the staff itself behind it, I guess. Maybe there was like a couple words about some of the directors and stuff, but that I don't remember too much digging into like the actual history of the people that work there and stuff like that. So next up was the Sarah Natacheni QA panel. She's the voice actor who mainly worked as the voice of Ash Ketchum since 2006. Well, that is until he won the Pokemon World Championship recently, and Ash's story in Pokemon finally came to a close. So now Sarah's biggest role is done after all these years. So the QA kind of felt like a sort of sad send-off for fans to say goodbye to. It's kind of like a bittersweet thing because now they can move on to do some other stuff. And there were some questions that people were asking that were just like some obvious ones, like, will Ash come back? And it's like, well, I'm just the voice actor. I have no say in that. We do whatever the Japanese anime does. So we have no say in that. So I don't know, maybe. And then there was other stuff like, who's your favorite Pokemon? Pikachu, obviously. And there was a ton of Pikachu and Pokemon cosplays in general in the crowd. And seeing all the Pokemon cosplays in the room was great. Like there was this really cool Mandalorian armor Pikachu that we saw hanging around, and he was definitely at the panel. Sarah was also dealing with her voice dying for some reason. Not sure if she was sick or something, but she told us she's supposed to be recording lines in a couple of days. So not good, but hopefully it got better in time. I don't know. For Saturday, we also checked out some comedy AMVs.
Boston, Massachusetts. Have you ever wanted to touch the heartbeat of America? Boston. Have you ever wanted to punch someone but don't know why? Boston. Have you ever found a used syringe on a bus? Boston. Have you ever had a hard time understanding the things you say because of your own accent? Baby, we're talking about Boston.
And every time we got to the hotel room, we eventually got through all of Batum while we were there, just because I kind of felt like watching it. I don't know what went over me. I just kind of wanted to. I thought it was cool in concept as a death game with weird bombs, but holy shit, was so much of it just dumb. And the English dub was hilariously bad. So thanks for that, High Dive. You sending us your best, I'm sure. Later that night, we went to the big event, Life Advice with Magni and Vesper. Now, I still don't watch VTubers much. My brother who went with me does, but I think he mostly watches the Hollow girls like Kiara. I think that's his favorite. I just know these VTubers exist and learn stuff about them through friend osmosis, weird Twitter drama, and fan art. It's always good fan art I end up seeing. Anyways, there we were packed in an auditorium with two giant VTuber boys on the big screen. A few times they showed the audience on one of the screens and the fans were having a blast with that. Lots of spears being waved because at some point Vesper randomly bought a boar spear or something like that. And towards the front, someone kept waving a Dakimakura of Magni. So before we even got started, everyone was already having a fun time. When the main event did start, audience members were picked to go up and ask for any life advice they wanted. So just picture a con goer sitting on a stool up on a stage with a microphone and two gigantic VTuber boys surrounding them. Most of it was silly stuff like how do I become Danny DeVito and how do I stop playing League of Legends. A couple questions were about relationship advice. One of them called their boyfriend up onto the stage to have some kind of debate over ownership of a Magni body pillow. So that one was pretty silly. And another was a guy looking for long distance relationship advice, and he wanted to get closer with them, and apparently his girl is a big fan of Vesper. So they talked about staging a Darman-like video where Vesper shows up and acts like a jerk so that the guy can be a hero. But there was some serious advice sprinkled in here and there, like how do I fit in with people when I'm shy, or I've got anxiety and I'm bad at meeting new people, what do I do? And they mostly answered seriously with doing stuff you enjoy with others, but they mostly kept it lighthearted with some jokes in between. I remember one guy also went up and asked Vesper specifically how to deal with a bad hangover hangover, and he goes, I could give you real advice, or I can tell you what I'd do. The real advice is eat oily food and drink lots of water. Pedialyte is good, but if you have a hangover, it's already too late. You gotta do that before you pass out. But what I'd do is just take another shot. It'll come back later, the hangover will be back, but the present is all I care about. So give the problem to future you. That's Vesper advice for you. And the boys also kept joking about a secret transmutation circle under the auditorium, so technically we were all sacrificed in the end. I'm no longer in this world. The Hall Star boys killed us. It was still a great time. I think it was worth it getting sacrificed in the end. Now for Sunday, there wasn't too much going on. It started with a panel on translation horror stories from Neil and Edelman. Most of it is how translators get a lot of harassment from fans when it comes to localizing something versus literally translating stuff, which is an argument that's as old as time itself when it comes to anime online fandom stuff. And specific cases and problems that come up with that kind of stuff in general, especially involving puns, different cultural jokes, and related visual gags. Like they showed one clip which was apparently an inside joke based on a Japanese shampoo commercial from 1982 that was running at the time. And it's like, how are you supposed to deal with that without writing a whole paragraph? It can get a little tricky depending. One of his stories I remember was the time he pissed off the creator of Revolutionary Girl Utena for coming up with that English title for the anime instead of its more literal translation of Girls Revolution Utena, which was soul crushing to Neil because that was like the first thing the creator said to him when they met in person. But it's also frustrating to him when that kind of stuff happens because those Japanese creators that will try to correct him on stuff usually don't know English well enough to understand the awkward problems with certain types of translations. So that was a true translator horror story to Neil, especially because after that, the creator personally picked a different translator for the Utena movies. So, oof. That's a rough one. There was also a story about how the creator of Mobile Suit Gundam, Yoshiyuki Tomino, ruined the translation of the Miller's Report compilation film. Apparently, Tomino demanded massive dialogue changes that were nowhere near accurate to how they were in Japanese, despite having nothing to do with the film itself and not knowing English again. So, because of that, Neil called himself that goddamn bald wizard out of anger, since he was very bald and thought if you put a hat on him, he'd look like a wizard. Then later, this became a funny nickname that spread throughout the industry, and then somehow leaked into the fandom itself. But that story Neil actually considers one of his greatest accomplishments. So if you're a Gundam fan and you're familiar with that nickname, Neil Nadelman is supposedly where that came from. After that panel, I checked out the Crunchyroll premiere of A Galaxy Next Door, which is airing this season. They showed us the first 2 episodes of the anime, and I thought it was alright. It was about a shoujo manga author who hires an assistant that turns out to be a princess alien, and through a supernatural accident, they end up getting engaged immediately. So it's a rom-com with supernatural elements to it, and a bit of background into the world of manga authors. It didn't seem bad, but it's airing on the same season as Tonikawa Season 2, My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999, and Skippin' Loafer, so I'd probably rather watch those instead. Not bad, I might go back to it later, but it's not on my immediate list. That's all for the panel, so now let's get into all the merch I got. We'll cut to video of that now. Alright, so let's get right into some of the stuff that we got from Anime Boston this year. First of all, because I went there as a member of the press, we got some goodies, which I didn't get any goodies last year. I don't know if I was supposed to or whatever. We got a power bank. This is a they gave us a goddamn power bank. This is awesome for like a member of the press going there, because obviously I had my phone with me, and then I also had my the voice recorder that I brought so that I could record some audio of some stuff. And then they also gave us this little Anime Boston notebook. Look at this shit. I don't think I used it at all because I'd rather type stuff out, but look at this. This is cute. I don't know what I'll use it for, but that's cool. It's my new Anime Boston Death Note. Don't worry about that. So we got those, and then here is the 1,000 free hours of AOL that we got from the Anime Sites of Yesteryear panel with Redbard and Samantha from Anime Herald. So awesome little goodie there. No credit card required. Look at that shit. For 45 days. Oh my god, I cannot wait. We're logging on, boys. So that's for those ones. Let's get into some books. We're gonna start with the art books because I don't have that many of them. I wanted more, but there wasn't too many that interested me, at least. So these are all either official or like fan books that were like imported from Japan, I guess. And there was a booth that was selling it in the dealer's room. I wanted art books from actual artists in the artist alley, and there's one guy who had an art book that was going to be for sale on Sunday, and I told him to put my name down, gave him my number and everything to let me know when they were available. He never texted or anything, and then when I went there, he didn't have them that day because they sold out, because he got them and then didn't tell me, even though I told him to tell me. And he said he would. So that was a little annoying. His art looked fucking awesome though. I still bought a poster, which I'll show you later, but we'll go into the books first. Okay. This is the Kill la Kill Kill one, which immediately looking at the cover, I'm just like, yes, I have to get the Kill la Kill official art book. That would be goddamn awesome. All right. Unfortunately, I think it was shrink wrapped at the time, and I did not realize it was mostly going to be interviews in only Japanese. But for the parts that aren't interviews, I at least can appreciate and look at those. So that's nice to look at. So that's awesome. I think there was just like long sections later on that are just all interviews that I was just like, man, what the fuck am I going to do with that? I don't know enough about Japanese yet to be able to do all that, but everything else about it I think is awesome to look at. And then you got the Gridman fan art book. Immediately you got a, what's her name? Rika? The 2018 fan book. Let's flip through it a bit. Ooh. There's like a fan comic inside too, which some of that I think I'll be able to read with my Japanese knowledge being what it is, but we'll see how that goes. Wasn't too much. Kind of expected more, but it's nice. And then we got the Psycho-Pass art book, which again, another case of a lot more interviews that are only in Japanese because these are all imported from Japan. And again, I think it was also shrink wrapped at the time, so I couldn't open it up to check it, which was a bit unfortunate. Here we got like a couple things here, but not nearly as much as the Kill la Kill one had. This one was a bit more of a disappointment, at least for me with my current Japanese knowledge. Once I get that up, I guess, if I'm able to start reading all this stuff, that'll probably be very insightful, but right now I can't read this shit. So that's all the art books. I need more artists to start actually doing art books, okay? I would buy them. I would love you guys and buy them. All right, let's go through the books. We got a lot of books. That was the main thing that I bought this year. Blue Lock, which I watched the first episode about, and it looked awesome. It looked awesome, but I also didn't know if it would still be awesome for me after like the first episode or two. I've seen panels of this on Twitter though, of the manga specifically, and I gotta check it out. So when I saw this on sale, I was like, all right, I'll get it. I'll see if I can finally get a sports anime about soccer that I enjoy. We'll see how that goes. Go Loser Ranger from Negi Haruba, the same creator as the Quintessential Quintuplets. A lot of these I don't know anything about, but based on the title, I'm assuming it's some kind of like Kamen Rider, Sentai, whatever the fuck they're called, like parody thing. I don't know. So we'll see how that goes. And then you got Sword Art Online Girls Ops. It's Sword Art Online but girls. Kind of see Kirito in the background though. Don't know if that means he's actually still going to be there. I don't know. Sword Art Online Gonna Get Alternative was great, mostly because Kirito wasn't in it, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. I just wanted to buy a shit ton of stuff. So I'm recording this like a month after Anime Boston, so some of these I have already read. This is one of them. Young Ladies Don't Play Fighting Games. It was in fact a all-girls school setting that develops into like a Yuri kind of premise about these girls that play fighting games together competitively, and they're super not allowed to be playing games at the school at all, so they have to keep it a secret and be alone together a lot to do it. So you can imagine where that kind of story leads. So there's that. All right, this next one was very shrink wrapped, okay? As you could tell by my channel being demonetized in real time as I look at this. Sundome Milky Way. It is about an alien and this horny guy, and they're trying to, the alien needs to get impregnated, so they are very much trying to get laid with this guy that they deem to be somebody who probably would have sex with them. But whenever the alien gets nervous, she turns into her alien form as opposed to her hot, like, fake human girl form. So they have to, like, basically get into a close relationship with each other before they can, you know, get more intimate. They have to find ways to, like, get them to be more comfortable together. So it's that kind of series, okay? It's that kind of series. Don't tell your mom about that one, okay? A sexy sci-fi romp, all right? I kind of like this. I kind of liked it. Don't know if I would read more of it, but I thought it was interesting. Girls Last Tour, which is another one that I did also read. It's like a chill post-apocalyptic slice of life with this like art style that I really enjoy. I believe the same author is also doing a series I've read a couple chapters of called Shimeji or whatever. I don't remember what it was called. They're doing some other series that I've read a couple chapters of that I liked, and it was weird and simple, like this simple stylized art, and it's got these cute like little girl designs. So this is like a nice little cool series. Shibuya Goldfish. I think it describes itself as a horror situation because a guy gets turned into a goldfish goldfish, and I don't know, he doesn't look like he's having a good time. I don't know if I'd be having a good time if I was turned into a goldfish. The girl I like forgot her glasses. I got this, and then I think like a week or two later, there was a trailer for the anime that was announced for this, and it's by Gohans. So somehow Gohans has returned, and it very much looks like a Gohans anime. It's gonna be something. And then you got Prison School omnibus deal here with a very much a warning. I flipped through this a little bit. It was very much shrink wrapped, and there's very good reasons for it. Okay, this big boy has got that girl, and things happen. I didn't read this at all yet, but I flipped through, and oh boy, things happen in this. Skip beat. Let's get some shoujo going. Okay, omnibus of that. Don't know anything about it, but I want to get more shoujo influences going, so I want to mix it up a bit with that. So we got that going. If witch, then witch. Yuri witches or Yuri magical deal. That's what I figured from the cover. I was like, let's get that going. Speaking of Yuri, how about Yuri is My Job, which I haven't read the manga at all yet, but I started watching the anime and I've been keeping up with it. I like the anime. I was nervous about whether or not I would at first, but I like the dynamic that's going on between the characters now in the show. So this is interesting to me, and I am really invested in seeing what the fuck's gonna happen between these two and how that kind of relationship develops with the complicated history they seem to have. So we'll see how that goes. I have no clue how the manga compares. Then you got some series called The Royal Tutor. I don't know anything about this. Again, it's just another case of I usually go into Anime Boston looking for a whole bunch of random volume ones of whatever I can find. So sometimes I get some stuff that I have no clue what the fuck you are, but you're a volume 1 of something. So I don't know. We'll see how that is. World Trigger, which I think has like 3 seasons of an anime. I don't know. Or was it World's End Trigger? Is this actually even the same thing? I don't even know. I don't know anything about anything. I just got it. It looks like sci-fi. It looks cool. We'll see. Undead Unluck. Again, no idea. Gabriel Dropout. I hear it's comedy. Is this the show that eventually has like Hatsune Miku getting robbed by one of the characters? Is this from that show or is that a different show? Either way, I got it. I recognize the title. This one was a mistake. Not because it's got a warning on it, which yes, it does. It was shrink wrapped. Okay, Trinity 7. I accidentally bought volume 10. Thought it was volume 1 because I think I probably saw it and it was like that. So I thought it was volume 1. It's volume 10. So, oh boy. That's not fun. Don't know anything about this series, and now it's gonna be a while before I do, because if I even want to read this book that I got, I'd have to read 9 other volumes to get to it. So I don't even know if that'll just end up being something I sell or give to somebody. So I have no idea. Back on the shoujo train, I believe we got Shortcake Cake, which was this Yuri? I don't remember. Boys. Maybe it was Boys Love. No, I'm sorry. I'm not reading the full thing. I'm like looking around and I see boys, but this is about a main character girl. This is probably just oh yeah, shoujo beat. There you go. That'll explain it. Shoujo beat. So you got a nice little shoujo Scott cake, which I'm sure there will be cake. Definitely. It's definitely not just a term for something. It's definitely not just like there's gonna be cake, right? I want a cake. Nisekoi, which again, zero knowledge about, but this one's like a popular title that I've heard the popular title of before, and it comes up a few times in Anime Music Quiz, so let's get it going. Hinowa ga Crush. I'm not gonna even bother to guess what this is about. You Call That Service, which I think is a vampire girl based on the blood on the cover. Woof Woof Story. I Told You to Turn Me Into a Pampered Pooch, Not Fenrir. So that's a title. Good old isekai fun, I guess. And Hello World, the novel, which I've still been meaning to watch Hello World, the anime movie that this is supposed to be based on, but I just kind of haven't yet. I don't know. How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend. I think it's got some other name, Saikano or something like that. I don't know. Ranma Half Omnibus. And I think it's funny you get volumes 1 and 2 there. So Rumiko Takahashi in the mix. Axel World, which I think is Reki Kawahara, the Sword Art Online author's story that he was working on before Sword Art Online. This is Reki Kawahara, but this is the manga adaptation, so not the light novel. We'll see how that goes. Heavenly Delusions, which is airing this season, and it is great. This is one of my favorite shows this season. You guys should check this out. It is on Hulu if you are a legal viewer. If not, you can go to your local video store. Ask the manager for Heavenly Delusions, totally legally. They'll have it. Just ask them to check the back. They have it. Oh no, yeah, wait, this is a light novel too. You got World End. What do you do at the end of the world? Are you busy? Will you save us? All the questions. You never know. You'll never know. Look at her. She's crying. She's crying. You can't find time to save her? Come on. All right, let's get the big boy out. The last one, Hatsune Miku Hatsune Mix. Unofficial Hatsune Mix. No clue what any of this is, but it's a Hatsune Miku and a giant omnibus of adventures of her. So why not? Why wouldn't we? Alright, so that's all the books. Let me get the posters. Alright, I lied. That was not all the books. We have a couple more. First is Monster Tamer Girls, which, yeah, looks like a slice of life about girls at like a prehistoric zoo thing or like a kaiju zoo thing. I don't know. And then for these, I wanted to try to get the omnibus version of the Flowers of Evil. They only had volumes 2 and 3, so I got those. They did not have volume 1 or 4, which are like, I think the only 2 I have to get, and then I'm done with that collection. Because I have all of the original manga format, but I thought it'd be cool to get the omnibus version too. I have 2 and 3, and I just need 1 and 4, so I'll figure that out. All right, now we can go on to the posters. And first we got this little like Pokemon Gyarados little card with Magikarps going around. I think this is awesome, so I'll hang that up somewhere on the wall. And then we got Blue Eyes White Dragon. This one's like one of my favorite Blue Eyes White Dragons one. I've had this up for like years. I forget when I got this. I know it was before COVID, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, this is like one of my favorite ones. I love this one. And that St. Martin's was actually there this year. And I told him I still have it, and it's awesome. So I got this one too, because I saw another one. There you go. I need more Seto Kaiba Blue Eyes White Dragon art and these things, okay? I need more. And then you got Oshinoko poster, which is one of the best anime this season, if not the year, okay? It's great. Go check it out. Going on to back to Yu-Gi-Oh, we got some of the Yugs, some of the main characters. I especially wanted because it's got the guy from Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. So that was cool. All right, but the big one. This is the big one. Makima. Oh my god, look at her. But it's so big, I'm probably gonna have to replace that Majora's Mask poster. But like, oh my god, look at her. This one's been like watching over me ever since last year, so I think it's fitting. Put another one up. And yeah, that's pretty much it for all the stuff I got this year. Overall, I'm happy with it. Maybe I could have gotten more light novels, I guess, but I still have all the light novels from last year that I have not read at all. So it just, you know, it is what it is. And that was pretty much it for this year. Overall, it was another great year at Anime Boston. It felt like there was a lot more going on this year compared to last year. So I guess we're getting back to how things felt before the pandemic. So that's great. And most of the guests I hear at the convention also say Anime Boston is still one of the best anime events in the country for them. So if you ever get a chance to go sometime, check it out and see for yourself. Anyways, that's all for now. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. If you went to Anime Boston this year, leave a comment telling me how it went for you. Or if you went to any other cons this year, let me know how those went. Follow me on Twitter, come hang out on Discord, and I'll talk to you all later.